What's this? The same radio? Kinda, but not really. This is the Gemini T20, and this is the first radio that I've seen on the market with built-in ELRS Gemini. In other words, we've got two ELRS modules that are capable of 1 watt each inside this radio. So we were already getting pretty damn good range out of this thing, but now you're going to be getting a more reliable link with the Gemini. So physically speaking, these two radios are identical, except for the fact that we now have the dual transmitters on this thing and we have a different antenna up top. On the original T20, we have one ELRS transmitter inside, so we have this single antenna up top and it pivots like that, and that's the antenna. On the Gemini though, we have these folding antennas that fold out and you can adjust them however you want. For Gemini, it's best to have them at 90 degrees to each other, so something like this. And then on the back, we no longer just have that heatsink that was on the original T20 like that. We now have a fan that's built into the radio. If you look through the fan, you can actually see that that heatsink is still in there. It's just on the other side of the fan, so this fan is actually keeping that heatsink cooled down. We also have 4 mounting points on the fan, so you can add a JP4-in-1 module or an additional external module. I'm not really a fan of this mounting system, to be completely honest. I like ones like the Radio Master Pocket, where it's just kind of integrated into the controller. I don't want to have to add a whole other bay to the radio, and in this case, you're going to be blocking the fan with that. I would personally just avoid mounting an external module to this radio because you'll be blocking that fan. If you just absolutely have to put an external module on this thing, you have all the connections for it right here. So if we go into the system settings, you'll see a couple new added features since this is Gemini. So we'll go into the Express LRS Lua script. You have all the normal settings: packet rate, telemetry ratio, switch mode, and then you also have antenna mode now. So this isn't something that you'll see on the original T20, but it's on this one, and it's because we have the Gemini transmitter. So if you're using a Gemini receiver, you'd want to have Gemini turned on. If you're using one of the more standard ELRS receivers that we're seeing right now it's December 2023, so currently most of the ELRS receivers that are out there are just standard 2.4 gigahertz one antenna. If you're using one of those, you're going to want to go into antenna mode and change this from Gemini to either antenna 1. These antennas are labeled. You can see we have antenna 1 and then antenna 2. So you can pick which antenna you want to use if you're using one of those more standard receivers. So you can select antenna 1, antenna 2, or you can have it on switch mode. So if you're using a Gemini receiver, make sure you have this on Gemini, otherwise you're not going to be taking full advantage of the Gemini system. Otherwise, just use antenna 1, antenna 2, or switch. And then underneath that, you have all the standard settings that you see on the original T20. TX power goes up to 1 watt. You have fan control here, so we can adjust the fan threshold. So we'll turn this down to 50 milliwatts, and the fan should turn on. That's what the fan sounds like. Pretty quiet. So you're really not going to see an increase in range between the Gemini T20 and the original T20. Both of these have a 1 watt ELRS TX module. This one has 2. That's not going to mean that you have further range. All that's going to do is just increase the link quality. So this is going to really be useful for if you fly in areas with lots of RF noise, or if you use drones to film events. I have flown events before and I have noticed micro failsafes, but Gemini really aims to eliminate that. To take full advantage of Gemini, you'll need a Gemini receiver like this Beta FPV Super D with dual antennas. If you're just using this radio with a standard 2.4 gigahertz receiver, like I said, you should adjust those antenna settings. Otherwise, if you're using something like this, you can use Gemini since this receiver has dual antennas. Keep in mind that if you are using Gemini, you are going to be powering 2 transmitters in this thing, so it is going to drain your battery a little bit faster. So the Gemini T20 I think would be good for anyone that's flying mainly in areas with high RF noise or congested areas where you've experienced micro failsafes at close range. This radio isn't for sale anywhere currently yet from what I see, so I'm not really sure how much this is going to sell for, but I'll leave a link to this down in the description. If this video helped you out, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave the video a like, and if you have any questions about the Gemini T20, leave a comment down below.